Hello, Nick Harris, UK-based illustrator here, talking about making a custom sticker brush today. Now, to be able to control the colour of this, you need to paint it in pure red on these settings. It's just one of the idiosyncrasies of the system, but it does make a big difference. So save that colour, like I have, to a custom toolbox, like that, and then you won't have any trouble making sure you've got the right colour. Now, once you've got your colour, then just make some marks, whatever marks you want to make. I've chosen some sort of grassy marks. And once I've done that, I export the layer I've painted them on as a PNG, because that saves the transparency. Save it somewhere so you can find it. And then when you've done that, click the Stickers tab, and it will open this dialog here. Sticker sheets. Decide the group you want to save it in. Click New to create a new brush in that group, and then go to that file that you saved, click in the boxes that say colour, and it will load that image to the boxes there. And then once you've done that, set the columns and rows, set the name, decide whether you want a shadow, and then save it. Click OK, and then your brush will be loaded, and that's where the fun really begins. Now have the settings open and click the sticker brush tool, and then click there where it says sheet and navigate to the group where you've saved your particular brush and load it. And now just try it out, see how you go. Don't play with any settings yet, just see what you've already got. It might be alright, but if you don't like it, that's where you click Spray Variation to open this dialog. And then this grid represents all the settings you can tweak. Pressure to scale, rotation, all sorts of things like that. Do you want the brush to follow the stroke? You can set all these things here. Just try out what the different settings do. See what works for this particular sticker sheet that you've made. There was a lot of in there, wasn't there? And as if that isn't enough to take on board, you've also got settings. So things like the spray rate you can decide on, whether it has a shadow. One important thing is to auto flatten. If you don't do that, you'll open up a whole new can of worms, because each dab you make, each sticker mark you make, will be put to a new layer that you can transform individually. That's how much control you can have, but obviously that will eat up memory. It's up to you, you could do it that way, but I would suggest auto flatten at least to start with. Meanwhile, getting back to the brush we've just made, you may find it's a bit flat and want to give it a bit more nuance. So let's go back and duplicate the layer, the red marks we made, and then lock the transparency of that layer, and then paint some different tones over that, some darker, some lighter tones. Now go through the same process of exporting as a PNG and loading it to make a sticker brush like we did before, and this one should have a little bit more subtlety to it. I don't know if you can see it in this particular example because it's probably not large enough, but try tinkering with tonal ranges like that as well if you want more interest in your brush, if you find that just the flat stickers aren't enough. And once you do find some settings that you like, save the brush as a preset. Open up the presets panel and pick your group and create a new preset. Give it a name, a distinctive name, and then it'll just be there for you. And then play with settings, and using the same sticker sheet, create new presets just with different settings. You'll be surprised how many different brushes you can get from one sticker sheet. But also, don't limit yourself. Think about some different ways of making marks, like edit the paper texture. and then use the chalk, the light chalk, to pick up on that and make less pronounced marks, so that you can make more textural brushes, and you can make that more emphasized by playing with the shadow settings available in the settings palette of the sticker brush. All these things are available to you to play with. I hope you begin to see the potential is pretty much just down to you. So let's get on and actually use this now. I'm going to make a brush with line and colour like this of leaves that responds to pressure for scale and opacity, and has got a certain amount of hue variation. So I sketch out a pose of a seated figure and more or less human proportions, but I turn the limbs more into branches and foliage. Well, the foliage is going to be attached, painted on with the sticker brush. That's the idea. So I'm just building up the tonal range now. That's using watercolour layers because I like watercolour, which is why I did the sticker brush to look like line and colour, a bit like that. Now I've overlaid a texture on a layer set to overlay to mottle it up a lot more. Got various photo textures I use. I've crisped up the line a bit here because I still want, when there's lots of foliage, I still want him to read. He's just sat in a sort of rock seat. And now I've selected the sticker brush and I'm just trying it out. Now I'd set the colour to light there. Yeah, the colour's not looking brilliant here, but it's okay. So I'm just trying it at the moment. This is like the dummy run. The great thing about sticker brushes is that you can try things out quite quickly and then go, if it doesn't go right, go back, have another go. If you were painting this by hand, it would take forever. It would take me forever, particularly with that line work. Just dibby dabbing around, technical term, dibby dabbing. See, I'm not being overly careful because I want it to look more natural. I'll have a few leaves around his joints, around his elbows. Might try and apply it to look a bit like hair. To look a bit hairy, leafy limbs. Almost like crowns on his kneecaps. See, I'm kind of laying bits of foliage in darker colour down his legs. Now starting with, because it's an opaque brush, I'm starting with darker colours and then working sort of light and also varying the colour as I go. I'll pick out the sort of highlighty bits later on. Do those are the fun bits. Remember to take into account whatever lighting scheme that you're using when it applies to all the brushes that you're using. If you want to look at a convincing lighting scheme, you have to remember where the light source is coming from. In this case it's coming sort of top right, down across him, the shadows on his left, to his left of him. The shaded side of him is down his left side. And also remember, it's like any other brush. You paint this on a separate layer, you can rub bits away afterwards. You can paint on top of it, you can augment it, you can take stuff away. You could outline if you wanted to, drive yourself potty. Now I did this on several layers, and the first layer I painted was too light. So using Control J on a PC, what would it be, Command J on a Mac, I've adjusted the brightness down a bit just to fit in a bit better. Same kind of thing you could do in Photoshop. See, but that was the practice run. Now we go and have another go. And that was about 3 or 4 times speeded up. I'm doing the narration after the fact, but it still didn't take very long for me to find out what I did and didn't want. Now starting with a darker colour this time, so hopefully I won't have to adjust it for brightness later. And I'm making the strokes a bit more directional, sort of coming out from him more like a giant fan really. It will have more volume than that, but I'm doing the dark, carrying on doing the darker colours, and I'll paint sort of mid-tones over the top of that. This is all that same leafy brush. Just undoing a few, it was a bit too much in places. I've moved to a slightly lighter, more green colour. But you see, even though I'm using sticker brushes, I still worked out the drawing in that first. Sticker brushes are a tool like any other. They are good for certain things. They're good for painting patterns, they're good for painting bulk things like foliage, things like that. They're good for all sorts of things. As I said before, it really depends on your imagination, your creativity, what you use them for. It's a tool like any other. And once you get the hang of just being able to make your own brushes, well, the sky's the limit. As you see, using lighter colours now, gradually building it up. Let's go to a few stages now. I was painting live, but we haven't got particularly long to do this, so I will do stages now. These are stills. As you see, I gradually fill in more tone and a bit more detail. I've laid a green wash over parts of the painting, including his face. I've put a tonal wash, two tonal washes laid to multiply over the top, a sort of brownish one and a purplish one, which I'm then working back into with light chalk and pencil and various other things, and then picking out highlights like that, see? And then when I get to a certain stage, because I've got too many layers, I merge them down to make it more controllable again, and then I start adding more layers. Can't stop myself. But I use more stickers to add more foliage and even to a few flowers, so it's worth it in the end. And as long as you don't inspect it too closely, it looks reasonably convincing. So there you are, stickers. Make a custom sticker brush yourself. You'll be glad you did.